Hey, all you wanderlusters and hometown heroes. This is Remain, Rome, Return, a podcast that pits your hometown lifestyle against the allure of far-off frontiers. In the show, we are going to try to settle the age-old debate on whether it is better to be the local legend or the one that got away.
And we are your host. I am Christian.
And I am Damien.
And together, we are going to spend each episode trying to discover which lifestyle truly is best. Is it better to stay close to the roots that raised you, or to fly away into the unknown?
Yep, and during these conversations, we will be discussing personal experiences and asking guests for their input to decide once and for all whether it is better to remain, roam, or return. You adapted pretty quick to that British culture, it seems like, huh, Milo?
That's right.
The first time, because I grew, my parents drink tea, terrible, just Lipton tea. And when I first lived in the UK, and someone was like, "Do you want milk in your tea?" And I was like, "That sounds terrible. I don't think I want that." And then I finally did budge and try it, and I was like, "Okay, now I drink my tea with milk."
Do you do the British amount or like a normal amount? Because I found most British put way too much milk in their tea. And
they do.
And I have to be very specific of can I just do it? Because even if I say just a little bit, they're still like, shh. And I'm like, that's a little bit to you?
Yeah. No. I always give the preface of when I would say that I'm technically lactose intolerant, but I still like a splash isn't too bad. So that seems to be, but I remember I've seen a meme of it's a spectrum of different color of tea levels of which one is the correct level of milk based on the hue, and it's one's just looks like normal tea, and then it's oh, that's just dirty colored milk.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough, my first English tea experience was with people who lived in England, and so they made sure to show me the proper tea and milk ratio.
I also thought it was a thing from the movies of when you go over to someone's house, they offer you a cup of tea, and I was like, oh yeah, that is a real thing.
Oh yeah, everybody has kettles in their kitchen.
Yes,
the plug in, the flip the switch kettles.
I now
US,
have.
Yeah, you got to boil it or whatever.
I have one, and it's funny though because the U.S. kettles don't heat up as quickly because of the electrical,
difference.
I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but
220 to 120. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're so much quicker. It takes half the time to boil water in the UK than it does the US.
Yeah.
It's like my cousin Vinny. You mean to tell me that grits cook faster in your kitchen than anywhere else in the United States?
Yes.
That's right. They designed their whole electrical system around boiling water for tea as quickly as possible.
I'll do one more caveat, then we can do the full intro of the show. Right. During World Cup matches that the England national team is playing, they actually have the electrical grid system prepared for when it's halftime because they know so many kettles in the entire country are about to be turned on all at once.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Which is the most British thing you can ever imagine of a sentence of, oh, we have to prepare for everyone to turn on their kettle because everyone is watching this particular football match.
Yeah, make sure you say football and not soccer.
Yes. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, we learned the hard way. Well, anyways, welcome back to the Remain, Roam, Return podcast, everybody. Our guest today is in England, but if you can't tell by the lack of accent, is not actually British. So this is going to be a really fun one. Please, everybody, welcome Milo, who is the co-host of the 80s and 90s Overlooked podcast, which is fantastic. Also the co-founder of the Podacy Awards. I cannot wait to get into this. Yes. Welcome to the show, Milo.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. This is great. Looking forward to talking about my world adventures.
Yes, let's frickin' go. So, Can you give us a quick backstory? Because as I alluded to, you are in London but are not from there. Can you give us a little backstory?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Spokane, Washington. which is east of Seattle. I moved to Seattle when I was much younger, lived there for most of my life. And then in 2013, through my work, I was able to go to Ireland and live in Dublin, which was nice. I'd never been there. And basically the opportunity came up and I'm like, hey, I'll go. Yeah, sweet. And I initially thought I'd just be there like a year or so and hang out, meet people, have fun, and go back to the States.
Sure.
And ended up staying for 7 years. Met my wife, she was my girlfriend. Met her, ended up marrying her. And we were there for 7 years. And in 2019, the fall of 2019, we moved to London and have been in London ever since. And we'll possibly be going back to Seattle this year again. We'll see how that plays out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. So is your wife she's Irish then?
No, everybody says that because where we met.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. She's German, actually. So, yeah. So she was like me. She was originally from Germany and then went to Ireland for work. And she had been there longer than I had. So her total time in Ireland, I think, was 11 years to my 7. But so it just happens that we randomly met a German and an American living in Ireland.
That is really kismet, which I believe might be a German word. If not, let's pretend it is.
Yeah, I don't speak German, so I don't know. I get hassled about it all the time. They're like, "How can you be married to a German and not learn German?" And it's like, because we live in an English-speaking country. Like, if we lived in Germany, I would learn.
And it's also probably a hard part where her family probably speaks English.
Yeah, they speak it pretty well. Her parents, not so much. So she does spend a lot of time translating. But I just don't go there enough. And I can kind of tell sometimes what they're saying. Like I'll pick up on words or just attitudes or that kind of stuff. Or, it's usually whatever anyways. So I just kind of pretend I know what they're saying and go along with it and be like, yeah.
Yeah, and German's such a very interesting language because of it's I think it's not based on the romantic languages, and so it also sounds very harsh from my experience of it. And I think I blame a lot of the American school system of propaganda against Germans, even though that was a long time ago, of this indoctrination of being don't trust the German language.
Yeah. Another reason why I don't speak it is because when I do try to speak it, I sound like I'm Hitler. And so her family will call me out for that. So if I were to say something like, mein super kleinen Affe, which is my sweet little monkey in German, in case you wanted to know what I just said. So you're like, I'm sure it also sweet little monkey. And you're like, mein super kleiner Affe.
I think it's the anger behind it.
It's the anger, and I'm sure they don't appreciate the little tiny mustache along with it.
Yeah.
No, so that's really cool. So I actually wanted to ask you real quick. So you said it was for your job that you moved. Are you able to talk anything about that? Like, what do you do for a living? Maybe not who you work for or anything like that, but
I can.
What is the job that took you there?
Yeah, at the time I worked for Microsoft. I don't work there anymore.
Oh,
but,
okay, right on.
So I worked in there for search advertising for Bing. I know you've heard of it, probably never used it. Yeah, but
only because Internet Explorer popped up first, and I was like,
yeah,
I guess I'm on my work computer. I might as well.
Yeah, try it out a little bit. Yeah. So they have search ads as well, just like Google. And I worked in that department. It was a mixture of technical engineering and project management. And so the team I was on in the US, they had a similar team in Ireland in the Dublin office, and it was expanding the team. And so I saw that they just were looking for more people, and I'm like, hey, I know how to do the job.
Yeah.
With that, I'm very curious about the whole process of you immigrating to Ireland for work and all of I don't want to say the bullshit you had to jump through, but did Microsoft you had to be of course sponsored by Microsoft, and what was that process like when you were hey, I do want to do this? Was Microsoft hey, we'll handle everything, or were you have to go to the go get a visa at the Irish office,
the consulate or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there we go. That's the word I was looking for.
When I was in the US, Microsoft had somebody handle it all, which was really nice because there's a lot of freaking paperwork. And so they had somebody that handled it. But what was funny is when they submitted it all to Ireland, they actually initially denied it, basically saying, "Why can't you just hire somebody locally to do the job?" kind of a thing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So they had to reapply for me and then got it. It's funny. Then once I'm over, in most ways, I was kind of on my own. So the first couple of years, like you go through immigration, you get all the stuff done, and it was really nice. They had somebody meet me at the airport and kind of show me. They hooked me up with temporary housing for the first couple of months. Had somebody help me set up a bank account, so it was very like hand-holdy, which was fantastic.
That is nice.
Oh, yeah.
And then once I got settled, I still had to renew my visa. At first, it was every 2 years, and it is funny because you go down to the immigration office, and it's very much like every country is exactly the same when it comes to going to the immigration office. It's full of people. Everybody's miserable. You're taking a number, and it's so time consuming. I literally, the first time I did that, I spent like a day there, and it's like, take this number, go to this counter, wait, do this, sit back down, take another number, wait for the next counter, sit there for 3 hours, wait for them to call you, that kind of a thing. And
I wonder if that's what the DMV is based off of.
I think so. Yeah. Like they're all looking. I think every government agency kind of looks to the DMV as the example of how to behave. And they're like, yeah, that's it. As much fun as I'm making, I will say the UK immigration was much nicer. They were very friendly here. And
great.
Yeah. And we're dealing with US immigration now too, because we're talking about going back because my wife's trying.
Oh, yeah.
So I can tell you guys about that as well. But on the Irish side, it was really quite nice. Once you've been there for, I think it's 5 or 6 years. So I just hit that number. You can apply for citizenship if you want. Which I'm kicking myself for not doing because it would have made it very easy for moving throughout Europe, but I did not.
Absolutely.
And regret.
And no plans to do so?
Well, it's too late now because I'm not there anymore.
You're not planning on going back?
Okay. No, we're not planning.
Yeah, I was kind of... With it being an EU country, would that have made it, you could have moved it essentially anywhere in the EU without a hassle?
Exactly. It would have made it, and even for our move to the UK, it would have made it easier because we'd moved just before Brexit. And
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, and Brexit has made it a lot harder. So I really should have and could have and was eligible, but I didn't because I was like, whatever, I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, I actually wanted to ask too because I think we don't get political on the show at all, but I think there's a lot of people who are curious about the process of immigration and stuff like that. You said your wife is now, because you're thinking about moving back to Seattle. Your wife is now about to go through that on the U.S. side.
Yep.
Have you started that process at all? Is it a fucking nightmare?
It's a nightmare. Out of the 3 countries, dealing with the U.S. one is the worst. And I'm saying that as an American citizen, right?
It is.
I mean, I think part of the problem is they're so deadlocked in, politically that they won't work together to fix it. You know, because I'm not talking about border, illegal, any of that kind of stuff. This is legal immigration, people applying to live there. She's my spouse, We've been together for almost 11 years now, married for 3. Together forever. And is that right? Shit, we've been together a long time. So there's no political willpower to fix the U.S. immigration, which is really outdated and really complicated, and very much in like we need to keep people out. And all countries, by the way, are like this. Like I said, the Irish one initially denied mine, even though I was gainfully employed in a company that was sponsoring me. UK has gotten much worse after Brexit. So it's not like it's just a US problem, but the US system is by far the most complicated, most difficult, most pain in the ass. It's cost us the most money to go through. And just the lack of help that you receive is amazing. And we had to hire an immigration lawyer to do a lot. Technically, you can do it yourself, supposedly. And we looked at it and we're like, F this. We're going to hire somebody.
I have a few former classmates of mine who are immigration attorneys, and they're like, there's no way you have to know like that to be your specialty. And it's like you were saying, I always had like, because I went to law school, but I'm not a lawyer, but I would have people where I would work who were like trying to get U.S. citizenships, were married, were sponsored, but even for them, and they were like had green card status. It is all the things that should be in their favor. They still have to hire an attorney because it is such an antiquated system.
Yeah, versus, when I first moved to LA, my first job that I got from here. So I've lived in LA for about 6.5 years, and the first job I got, the coworker that I had was married to a U.S. citizen and was sponsored with a work visa, and still to this day, 6.5 years later, still does not have status here. Yeah. It's like 6.5 years. That is absolutely insane. Like, I don't know how anybody gets it done, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started the process last year. We were just over in Seattle last week, actually. Wow. Last week. So we were just over in Seattle last week to get her fingerprints done and her picture done, which is ridiculous because we were in the U.S. at the end of last summer, basically because she had to do an immigration interview, and it's like, well, why couldn't you just done that then, kind of a thing? Yeah. And it's like, so we had to fly over twice. It's insane how difficult.
That would have been too efficient.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. Wouldn't want anything to be efficient. And I make fun of it too, because she works for Facebook or Meta, right? And right on. They're working on, so technically, like, if she can work it with them, she'd stay employed there, kind of a thing. So there's a whole thing around that. But you'd think, looking at on paper wise, right? I can go to the US, no problem, but I'm self-employed and I don't make dick for money. Yeah. Right. Yeah. She works for a massive tech company and makes well more than I do. And they're like, no, we don't want you. Stay the fuck out. You know, it's just an insane system.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go for it, Christian. Sorry.
Yeah. I was going to just ask of like, what made you want to like choose to go to Ireland? Like, was it just like kind of your like boss came to you like, hey, we have this opportunity. Would you like to go to Ireland? And like with that, you said you'd never been. Had you traveled outside of the States at that point? Or
yeah, so I had traveled. Like, I've always loved traveling. So I had been out of the US. I'd been to I went to Zimbabwe and did some volunteer work. I've been to South America, to some places in Asia. So I had traveled a bit. And no, I just was told from somebody on that team that we communicated with that they were expanding the size of the team. So I saw that they had an opening, and I reached out to their manager first and said, hey, can I apply for that? And then I talked to my manager and she was like, yeah, go for it, kind of a thing. And it was just simply a desire to just have the experience. Right. Sure. Of like, if this opportunity, here's the thing, like, cause we're talking about people traveling and people ask me all the time, they're like, oh, I want to go so-and-so, what can I do? And I'm like, the best way to do it is find a job that will sponsor your move.
Yes.
You know, because you don't have, it's going to be so much harder. And since I had that opportunity for them to sponsor the move, I'm like, yeah, why not do it? I mean, worse, I get over to Ireland and I hate it. Right. Okay. Right. I spend a year there. I moved back to the States because I had to agree to at least a year because, I spent all the time and effort in moving. And I'm like, odds on me hating it are unlikely. But even if I do, fine. It's a year and I'm back and I still have that experience. And that's literally all it was. I just had the opportunity and wanted to have the experience. And it's great. A good friend of mine was just here Friday night from Ireland. We're still friends. And he was like, hey, Milo, I'm going to London, going to a show. You want to come with us? I'm like, yeah, all right.
Heck
and then And then because they're
Irish, show was it?
They drank excessively. And I had a hangover for the remainder of the weekend.
Yeah.
What show was it that they were in town for?
Oh, what's the name? I think the band's name is like Maude, Maude, if I'm saying that right.
That sounds right.
They're a German marching band that does electric dance music, EDM music.
Oh, that is rad. That sounds so fun.
It was insane. I'm like, because first he's like, hey, at first I was just like, I'll meet you guys for a drink before you go to the show, have a couple, and then you guys go and, have a good night. And then he's like, no, come on, go. It'll be fun. I'm like, all right. And tickets were only £30. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. Like, you would not think a German marching band that does like dance music would be fun to go to, but it was awesome.
It is a very interesting concept for sure.
Yeah,
with enough pints in, anything's interesting.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I already had a couple drinks by the time he talked me into it.
Yeah,
there you go. So you said you mentioned that your wife and yourself went back to Seattle last week.
Yeah.
Did you happen to take her back to your hometown at any point?
Oh yeah, we've been back
like your hometown. Okay,
yeah, Spokane originally. Yeah, so I'm originally from Spokane, 300 miles east of Seattle. It's kind of
it's almost in Idaho, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's right on the border between Washington and Idaho. It used to be terrible when I lived there, but they've actually done a really good job of revitalizing it. The downtown actually has things that you might want to see now.
Yeah.
And as much fun as I make of it and continually saying I will never live there again, it's actually, they've done a good job of cleaning it up. And it's actually a pretty nice little town now. Or city. Actually, it's a pretty large city now. It's gotten huge.
Yeah, they have a decent sized airport, I've heard.
Good sized airport. They got a couple good colleges there. And just driving around, I'm like, this used to be a giant field and now it's an apartment complex. And that wasn't there and that wasn't there. And I'm sure she got sick of listening to me like, oh, shut the hell up, man. Come on.
Yeah. So you consider Spokane your hometown and not Seattle?
No, I consider Seattle my hometown. Okay. I was born in Spokane, but I'm a Seattleite. I personality wise, the vibe of the city, even though tech companies have kind of moved in and ruined it over the past few years, I consider myself a Seattleite.
What age did you go to Seattle then?
22.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I moved over there for school. So I did first couple of years of school in Spokane, and then went over there for university at the University of Washington.
Oh, nice. With going away from Seattle, because it sounds like you probably came back and visited a few times, but how have you seen it change in that time since you left for Ireland, and like comparing and contrasting it? It probably changed quite a bit. Like Microsoft's always been there, and Amazon was probably just starting to get bigger, and not now. It's most of my friends who live in Seattle work for either of those two companies because they just, if you're a tech worker, it's one of the places to be. And so
or Costco, right?
Okay, Kirkland, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're there.
We talk about Costco.
Google, Facebook, they have offices there now, like all the tech companies. Expedia, their offices in Bellevue. Right. So it's changed a lot, and it's not for the better, unfortunately. So it used to be had a lot of character. You had cool venues, like music. Obviously, there's tons of great music from Seattle. People could afford to live there. And Amazon moved into downtown Seattle. So South Lake Union is an area there. And they literally tore the entire neighborhood down and put in all these corporate office buildings. And of course, the Seattle City Council gave them a bunch of tax breaks to do it. They're like, yeah, come in, move in. But what happened is the end result that they didn't think about was, well, local businesses aren't going to get that much more money because Amazon employees don't leave the office to go for lunch or anything because they get food there, right?
Sure.
And then they go home at the end of the night. So maybe occasionally after work, but not really. So that's kind of died off. The ones that do live in the area have caused all the housing prices to jack up super high, which, to be honest, is everywhere. Name a place in the world now. But it's contributed to that. So you've got a huge homeless problem now. A lot of businesses have closed down. The Nordstrom's in downtown Seattle I saw is just closing, going to be closing down. So it's because, in my opinion, Amazon ruined it. Jeff Bezos destroyed my city.
Yeah. And I've heard also with that with work from home, which is amazing, now means a lot of those buildings are sitting empty in like the CBD, the central business districts. And like, that's why a lot of people are like, the whole return to office thing of being like, oh, we have to, because we're just literally throwing money away with empty buildings just sitting down there, which is like hard contrast, right? I get it. Like, you gave a great example of like, most of these tech companies of everyone I know, you don't leave, like you have literally every single meal there. Or like I have a buddy who works at Google who says, they have free dinner, but it's not until like after 6, but you technically get off at 5, but you still, it's like kind of a cheating way of getting extra hour out of your employees, because they're like, well, I'm here for another hour to get that free meal.
That's
and it's just
so
kind of
shiesty, dude.
Yeah.
It's
well, not only that, you're eating with your coworkers. So odds are very likely you might be talking about work even while you're eating your meal.
Oh my God. That is, I know, Milo, you don't know me very well, but that is my hell.
Yeah.
There is nothing that I hate more than working, and I could not imagine being stuck there for 10 hours to get a free meal and then having to worry about work off the clock. It's just, that is not conducive to my lifestyle at all.
Yeah.
I cannot stand it.
100% with you. I'm very strict on work-life balance kind of thing. Like I said, I don't work there anymore, but I was very clear about people like, don't email me after work and expect me to reply. I'm going to do it the next day when I'm in the office. I had a job here in London, and I remember one of the managers contacted me on like a Saturday or Sunday, and I was just so offended. Like,
yeah,
what are you doing?
Like, what are you doing
for? Like, come on, man. It's my day off. Don't be calling me on my day off. Wait till Monday.
Anything you need right now can be done first thing Monday morning. That's always been my philosophy.
Yep, that was literally it too. Yeah.
we get 2 free days to enjoy life.
Yes.
And you're gonna have the audacity to reach out to me. That's insane to me.
Yeah. So
did you notice, like, speaking of work culture, did you notice a difference of work culture from moving to Seattle to like Ireland, like to Dublin?
Question.
Was it more chill, or was it more still like, hey, like, like you mentioned emails after work, or like that's a very common thing, but most of my European friends it feels like they have a holiday like every other week.
Yeah. Bank holidays. There's always bank holidays coming up in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Europeans are better about that. Not so much during the workday. It seems to me like it's pretty consistent. Everybody goes in, does their job, eventually goes home. Some people stay later, that kind of stuff. But the big one is the days off. Like Europeans are, I'm sure you guys know this already. Europeans get more vacation days in general and take more vacation days in general, right? Compared to Americans. So I think that's the big one, is that they enjoy having their time off much more than American. I think the problem with Americans is I think we overvalue our impact to the company we work for. We think we're too valuable, and don't get the fact that the company doesn't view you as too valuable. That's why they will literally, all the companies just recently went down the line layoffs, right? Because they don't care about it. But people don't get that. They're like, oh no, they need me. If I leave, they won't. Or even that, if I leave, they won't see how valuable I am if I'm not here. So by being here, they'll see how important I am.
Like, I think I struggle with, even compared to Damien, who's in California, which has more employee friendly laws versus where I'm at in Nebraska. we're a work for hire state, and then my company I work for is actually based out of Iowa, so work for hire of the whole. I've just visited Damien out in LA, joking about, it's like, oh, you looked at me funny today, you're gone, is very, like, could be a thing here. Like, my company is very great, but that's always in the little back of my head. Where Damien, it's like, he's like, oh, it's kind of hard to get fired in California, and then even more so in Europe, they have actual employee protection laws, and we won't get into the whole healthcare system being a thing attached to your job in the States, but I think it is a little bit easier to stand your ground maybe a bit more in other countries besides the States, because of how the laws are written to be like, oh, you get a little bit of protection to say no, versus the States. Sometimes if you say no, you might be gone. Versus,
you're on the to be axed list.
Yes. Did it take you some time after moving abroad to get comfortable with that many days off? Like, did you have that American guilt, or were you just like, thank God I have this?
I've never had that American guilt about, like, I learned early on that companies view me as expendable. And so I have no problem utilizing all of my vacation days wherever I live at all.
Can I ask you if that's ever been a problem? Like, has it ever gotten you into hot water by sticking to your guns about that?
No, kind of once. I used to work for AT&T, and this was very early on, but I was also a total pain in the ass employee when I worked there. You hear the term emotional intelligence. thrown around a lot. I didn't have any then. And so, so I did get into it a couple times with one of my managers when I wanted to take time off and she wouldn't let me. And then I learned the lesson, well, with her, just call in sick then instead of, but beyond that one person, no, I've never really had a problem. I've generally always had pretty good relationships with my managers. And so they know, like, you know, if he wants time off, as long as he isn't a problem, you know, like that kind of stuff, or schedules around things, or I've never really had a problem with that. No.
Yes.
Yeah. My company, I work for a startup, and we have unlimited PTO, which is, I don't like.
A scam? Yeah.
It is,
because they guilt you if you take it.
Yep.
Because
I'm going through that right now too.
every study has shown that employees where they did have normal like days versus unlimited, that when they switch to the limited, employees actually take less days because you don't know what that threshold is. And I was like, one time talking to my boss, who he's a very good boss. But I was like, so like, where's the line? He's like, we'll find it. And I was like, that's not the answer I want. I want to know
when you cross the line. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
How about that?
But then it's too late.
But it's too late.
Yeah. I have a question regarding you being technically right now you're a roamer, but it does sound like you may be thinking about being a returner. Because are you thinking about moving back to Seattle now, like permanently?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I don't know if it's going to be permanent, but she's never lived in the U.S. I've been away from, like, I'm not super close to my family, but I'm close enough to where I wouldn't mind seeing them on occasion, kind of a thing. And so, you know, it might be nice to go visit them a little bit on occasion and stuff. And you guys know the U.S. is huge, and there's so much to see there.
Yes.
National parks and places to visit. So
especially West Coast.
Yeah. So I'd love to be able to, like, take her on a nice road trip and that kind of stuff. So I don't know if it's going to be a permanent move, but certainly ideally for a couple of years. I know her parents are getting older, so we might then go to Germany after that. Or what I want to do is I want to go to Spain. I want to become a digital nomad and live in Spain. Nice. I've lived in every country, every place I've lived has had crappy, rainy, cold weather. And I want to live with nice weather, relaxed atmosphere.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. From Seattle to Ireland to the UK. Oh my God. You haven't seen the sun in 40 years.
No. That's what you think it's my screen that's making me look pale and white here.
No,
it's not. This is my natural appearance.
I thought I glow in the dark, man.
Yeah. That's funny. It's because I'm using my crappy laptop camera.
No, my question was going to be, so as
are you a vampire?
Yeah, and I'm normally not this pale. Just so we're clear, like I
how do you feel about garlic?
Yeah. Although my wife refers to me as a vampire because I like the lights dim. Like I hate bright lights and stuff. And damn vampire, get out of here.
That's so funny. So being a roamer and not yet a returner, of course, I was curious, how was your life growing up as a kid, and did it contribute to you being a roamer? Like, did you always know you wanted to go somewhere else?
Maybe that it's a hard one, because you could say that because we moved around a lot when we were children. I never went. I went to 4 different high schools. I went to, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 different high schools. I went to so many different grade schools I couldn't even tell you, because I mean, obviously some of them I don't even remember. I was so young. Like, we moved around a lot as children. So you could say, well, it's because of that. But then you look at my sister, and she's very stable. She lived in Spokane pretty much her whole life. And then she, a few years ago, moved to Montana, and she's been in Montana ever since then. And I kind of had to talk her into the move to Montana. She was like, I don't know if I want to do it. And I'm like, just do it. Go. Like, again, you might like it.
You can always come back.
You might hate it. You can move back. Exactly.
Yeah.
She loved it. She's still there.
What, military family? Is that why you moved?
No, poor family. Poor family. So
I know all about that. I know all about that. You, a different forcible move.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't stay in one place too long. That's how they get you.
Yeah, that's how they track you down. When the repo people are coming after your car, you got to move a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. And never update your license. I learned that from a young age.
That's a good one.
Keep your license with your original address.
Yeah, they always go to the wrong place.
Exactly. Yeah. They send you the repo notices to the wrong address.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Buys you an extra 2 weeks until you can move again.
Exactly. Plus, you get in the place, you get a few months before they really properly evict you, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You get warnings.
Yeah, exactly. You can work your way through a couple warnings. That's bad advice, people. Just so we're clear.
This is a semi-comedy podcast. We're almost
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like I have to do that on our podcast every once in a while because we'll say something and we'll be like, "Okay, kids, now what we just said, don't do that." You remember how I said
satire?
Yeah, because we did an episode on TV shows from the 90s. Like, you remember, or the 80s, they had that very special episode. There'd always be that kind of one that was like the serious, like a sitcom, and they'd have the serious one.
Yeah.
And the I think it was, I can't remember the one, but they had one, and it was Growing Pains. And they had an episode of Growing Pains where the son goes to a party and the girls off, these hot girls come up to him and his friends and like, "Hey, you want to do some cocaine and then go sit in the hot tub with us?" And the main character, Mike, he's like, "Oh no, I can't do that. I got to go home," whatever. He's like Mr. Goody guy.
Yeah.
And I'm literally like, kids, when a gorgeous woman comes up to you and says, "Would you like to do cocaine and sit with me in the hot tub?" You say yes. Right away.
Absolutely.
There's no question about it. You say, "Can I snort it off of your tits? Can I how do you want to do this cocaine and sit in the hot tub? Are we going to be clothed or not clothed?"
Yeah.
That kind of these are the questions. This is the kind of stuff. And so
that's important questions to answer.
That's true.
You're doing the Lord's work right now.
Exactly. You don't say, "Oh no, I can't do that. That's bad." No,
what will my mom think?
Yeah, exactly. What would my parents think if they saw me?
I love how that is life. But wasn't his best friend's name Boner?
His best friend was named Boner, and Boner initially stayed at the party. But
where do you think they did the coke off of?
But then he got the girls. There you go.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'll do some off of you. You do it off my boner."
Yeah.
So, but then of course I have to preface, don't do that, kids, because we are
cocaine's bad.
Yeah, cocaine is bad.
Apparently.
So I'm told. Especially if it's
But I've heard it smells great. I don't think anyone would start listening or watching me and Damien being like, "Yeah, we need to take life advice from those two guys."
Yeah, right. If you're listening to us as any sort of advice, you go back to Joe Rogan. You are in the wrong spot. This is not for that. We are two idiots who talk about dumb shit and growing up poor.
Yeah, that's basically our show too.
Yeah. So actually, that's a perfect segue right there. So the 80s and 90s podcast that you have is fucking awesome. I often consider the 80s and 90s the pinnacle of media, in my opinion. I mean, I'm also biased. I grew up in the 90s and stuff like that. But what was the impetus of that show? You just a huge fan of shitty 80s and 90s films?
Kinda. But yeah, Jamie, the whole concept started from Jamie, actually. I do a lot of writing on different things, and he had this idea. He wanted to start up a website where he just writes about 80s and 90s pop culture stuff. And so he's like, "Hey, Milo, you want to contribute to the site?" And I'm like, "Oh, man, I got too much going on. How about you want to do a podcast or something instead?" And he's like, "Well, what's a podcast?" I'm like, "Well, this is what a podcast is." And that's really what it came down to. So, and it's, how sometimes when you hang out with friends and you kind of get to a point where oh man, we've talked about all this, or you kind of run out of stuff to talk about. It's kind of cool because we get together and we have a subject. So we're not going to talk about our crappy jobs and that kind of stuff. We're going to be like, this is the subject, and this is what we're going to talk about. And it's fun. As far as he's concerned, nothing has happened since the year 2000. So even though he's younger than I am, he's much, much older than I am.
Okay,
and,
gotcha.
He's like, everything peaked with the first Matrix, and then nothing else happened afterwards.
That's literally it. Yeah.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, you did a pretty thorough chat of the Matrix. Am I right? Or
Yep. Yeah, we talked about the Matrix. We talked about the new one a little bit, but mostly it was just because the original Matrix. Yeah, he views 1999 as the greatest year in movies, and so we had to have a discussion about that. I don't know if I agree. There were other years, but there were a lot of great movies that came out in 1999. If you ignore Star Wars Episode 1.
Yeah. What are the top 5 of 99?
I love the Star Wars now from a perspective of it's a movie about trade wars and not a Star Wars movie. And if you watch it from that lens, excellent.
That's good. I learned, because I hadn't watched episode 1 since it had initially released in theaters, but we just did a show where we talked about it, and I rewatched it, and I realized, look at it from the point of view of a Spaceballs movie. It also could be a Spaceballs movie, and then it also makes it kind of good. Yeah. So it's all about how you view it. You're right. Trade Wars, Spaceballs, definitely not Star Wars.
Yeah.
Galaxy Quest came out in 1999.
Yes.
Ooh.
Love that one. Trying to think. Have you guys done a comprehensive list of like top 5 for that year specifically? If that's,
I think so.
If that's one of your favorites.
I don't know if that's on the YouTube channel or just an audio podcast that we did that, because we kind of have a little of both. I'm slowly going back and adding more to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So if it's not on there, it will be at some point. But yeah, we did basically the top movies of 1999. So, and I don't even know if we got into all of them, because there were so many good movies that year.
Tune into their podcast and find out, because now I want to go and listen to what your top 5 is for 99 for sure. My favorite underrated, which is now not underrated, but was widely renowned as not such a great film at first, is The Big Lebowski.
Ooh, yeah, good. Which
that's my all-time favorite.
Was not a big film at the time when it came out.
No, it wasn't.
It took many, many years for that to come around, and honestly, it took me 3 full watch-throughs to realize the brilliance of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's my favorite movie.
That's good. Sorry, I am listening. If you're wondering why I'm not looking at you, because I'm seeing if I still have my notes from that episode on the movies from 1999.
He's in producer mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm sure I do have them, but I'm not going to spend too much time looking at them.
Yeah, no worries.
We'll send everybody over your way and listen to all your whole repertoire. The links are going to be in the description.
Bio.
Awesome.
Really great podcast, by the way. It's very fun. I'm a huge fan of the concept and the stuff that you guys get into. And thanks. Also, you guys really seem to have a nice, like 30-ish minutes, like hard, let's talk about this, which I really like, because our show gets complaints if it goes over an hour. So I like the fact that you guys keep it nice and short and concise.
Yeah.
Do you have to do a lot of prep work for do you have to watch a lot of these movies beforehand? And because me and Damien were like, let's do this idea. And then we're like, we don't do much prep for this podcast, as our listeners probably can tell.
Yeah, it's a lesson. I talked to people that want to be, because once you mentioned, you guys have probably experienced this as well. You mentioned you have a podcast, and people are like, "Oh, I want to do a podcast." And you're like, "Okay, great. What's it going to be about?" I don't know, kind of a thing. And it's like, people don't realize there's a lot of work that goes into doing a podcast. Like research, editing, promotion, just maintaining the schedule every time. And so for ours, we do a decent amount of research, because even though we do sometimes get stuff wrong and people call us out for it, people love to call you out when you're wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
That's just engagement. That would be perfect.
That's what it is. So, we do research. Anytime we mention a movie, I'll try to watch it in preparation for the episode, if I can, or at least have made sure I've seen it and am familiar enough with it to mention it.
How long's the podcast been going?
4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You beat the statistics.
Yeah. We've got 200 and something episodes, I think, once a week. We have literally done an episode once a week since January of 2020. So
that's excellent. That's a lot of movies.
Yeah. Over 4 years now, actually. Yeah. Yeah. We're just, we do more than just movies, though. We also do pop culture stuff. So, So there's the audio podcast as well, and that gets into more outside of movies. So that would be, we might sometimes talk about the Chernobyl disaster that happened in the 80s. So we'll do sometimes serious subjects, and then we also do sometimes stupid stuff. Like we'll have a debate between who would win in a cage match between Skeletor and Mumra.
That is brilliant.
Cartoons, that kind of stuff, so it balances it. As long as it happened in those those 2 decades, it's game.
That's That's brilliant.
If you could recommend one episode for people to be like, this is the one you need to listen to. Like if people ask to, what episode would you say is that for you?
That's hard. The one that I think we both enjoyed the most, it was in during our first season, so Jamie's sound isn't going to be as that great. But we did one of songs that we're embarrassed to like.
Okay, nice.
From those decades. And I don't know why Jamie said any of them these embarrassed, because he's got terrible taste in music. So he'll be proudly of any crappy song that he listens to. But whereas I was legitimately embarrassed to say a couple of the songs out loud, like even my wife didn't know I liked this song, kind of a thing. So that one, I think we both look back to just because we had so much fun doing it. We probably laughed more in that episode than any other.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things that's one of the things we've learned about doing this podcast as well. And we joke about it all the time. We always shout out and do like callbacks to very, very early on episodes. And every single time we do that, we're like, we were much better podcasters back then. So you're going to want to go check. Yeah. If you like this, you're going to love our first like 10 episodes, because when we had no fucking clue what was going on, I think that was probably the best we ever were. And now we're getting this kind of figured out over the last year. And I'm like, oh, some of these, I hate myself.
Now you guys have gotten so professional.
Oh, God.
Did you guys always start out with good equipment? Like I see you got nice mics and headphones and stuff there, or did you kind of get it as time went on?
I would say we started off pretty well, because we love podcasts. We both like understood like a lot of podcasts, the first 5 episodes are almost unlistenable. And so we're like, hey, let's try to at least get like, these mics aren't very expensive. We bought them from the company you least like, apparently, the conglomerate that is Amazon. And
you know, like, as much as I say I hate them, though, I do buy stuff from them. So
well, you kind of have to.
Have to. Yeah.
It's one of those like, it's just a place where it's like, I hate that I have to do this, but it's sometimes the only option. For some things.
Yeah, and sometimes you go to, I'll go to a store wanting to buy something from that store, and they don't have it. So then I have to go to Amazon to get it.
Almost every time, because
annoying.
Especially with like the podcast stuff, it's such niche equipment. It's really hard to go and walk into a store and be like, I need this tiny little thing for this random USB mic that I don't even know what it's called. Can you help me out? And they go, no, I can't. But then you just type tiny niche equipment for unnamed microphone, and all of a sudden it pops up first thing. And you're like, well, I mean, I can't beat that. If I can make a dumb search and get what I need, that's what I'm going to go for.
And delivered to your front door.
Yeah.
You don't even have to leave the home for
that
it.
is nice.
So
and within a day.
A day or two.
Really quickly.
Also, you don't have to deal with the ever devolving customer service that you get in person. It's just getting it's getting real bad now.
Yeah. Can I get help with this? Do I have to help you? I guess.
It's probably down that aisle. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. It's like, well, I would like this deodorant, but it's locked behind glass.
Yeah, why is that?
Oh yeah, that would totally. Yeah. I went into Safeway when we were in the States, and I'm like, I go to this section to get something, and then I went to get something else. She's like, no, you have to buy that here, because they had this separate like deodorants and detergents and stuff like that. And I'm like, but I need something over there. And she's like, well, you can set it and then come back or whatever. And I'm like, geez, this is ridiculous.
Why can't I just buy my Head and Shoulders? Why do I have to go to the pharmacy for it? I don't get it.
I just also love the thought of being like, I can't buy my $3.99 Head and Shoulders, but like this $20 bottle of like alcohol free game, like the cost variation, like I get it. The whole like things that, putting what people basic needs need behind glass, so they're more likely to be stolen because it's basic needs. But
hey, we have eggs here in the UK.
That's true.
That out, guys.
That's true. Ship them on over.
Yeah, don't need to smuggle them into the country.
That is true. I again just visited Damien and his wife in LA, and like eggs are still like in Nebraska, because things are just fairly inexpensive just in general. Are still like not terrible, but then I heard what like Damien was paying for eggs, and I was like, I would just give up eggs.
Yeah, I don't need them that bad.
Yeah.
We went to Costco just to try to see if we could get any, and the line just for the eggs started around the building outside.
That's insane. Yeah, eggs are. I mean, I like an egg, I guess, but not that badly.
Not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
could see it during the pandemic with toilet paper. Like, you got to wipe your
Right.
butt, so that's kind of necessary. But you can live without eggs.
We bought a bidet, one of those like little attached bidets, and let me tell you, that is a life changer. I will always shout out people getting a bidet, not just for the eco reasons, but also
if you're thirsty.
Yeah,
it's it's a little water fountain when you need it.
The dog,
clean.
The dog comes in there, hits the thing. He's like,
"Yep, it's perfect." Christian actually made a good point while he was here too, because one of my favorite pastimes is complaining. So I was bitching about the egg situation, and I was like, I just can't understand why anybody would line up outside of Costco and then grab 15 dozen eggs,
because you can't hoard them because they go bad.
And he had a good point. He was like, yeah, but I guarantee over half of those people run restaurants or like bakeries. Like, oh shit,
yeah, they're mom and pop places is what
that makes sense.
Somewhere had, like, I think it was NPR had an article about it being like, yeah, actually what's causing a lot of the egg stuff is stuff like that, is like mom and pop restaurants are just trying to find eggs wherever they can get them, because it's like, especially bakeries, because you need eggs in so much of baking stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I worked for a pizza place once, and yeah, I mean, you got to have eggs for your pizza dough.
Yeah.
The vegan restaurants, though, they're doing all right.
They're doing fine.
Business is great if you're vegan.
Yeah. So I wanted to get into this as well. So you are the co-founder not only of the podcast, but also of the Podacy Awards.
Yes.
And I am very, very curious about what is that? Is it a company? Like, what, can you go into what that is?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I'm not being a dick. I'm just need to respond to something.
Here comes that emotional intelligence again.
Yes. Well, I'm apologizing. But I do need to reply to this really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Goddamn work texting you on the weekend.
Well, no, this is actually my Jamie, the guy I'm about to talk about.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
He's like, I heard you talking about me.
I can sense it. My nose was itching. What are you saying about me, jerk? So we do the podcast, the 80s and 90s Uncensored, and I was looking for podcast awards to like submit us to, and to get some recognition, get a little laurel that you can put on the website, whatever. And I found that they kind of came into two categories. The first category was stuff like the Webbies or some of the Ambies, which are expensive as hell to enter, right? The Ambies start at $150 to enter.
Oh my God.
Go up to $250, right? So if you're an independent podcaster, you're not going to be spending that much money. And in that case, you're competing against the big celebrity hosted podcasters, so you're going to lose anyways.
Yeah.
That's one a thing we've talked about and moaned about on this podcast.
Yeah,
Christian won't even spend $150 on a flight to LA, so we're definitely not submitting it to.
What a jerk, man!
Yeah.
Hey, I
Ryan.
still made it. No, I took Spirit, and it was an experience.
So was it 150 for the flight? How much was it?
I was under that
50?
round trip.
Yeah.
No, it was like, I think like 130 round trip.
Okay. All right.
Direct flight. Yeah. They don't let you bring on like a normal size carry-on. That costs extra. Like, it's a pay to play kind of flight.
Yeah.
If you've never flown Spirit, which you're very lucky. Like, you might have flown at Ryanair, right?
I've flown Ryanair. Yeah.
Ryanair seems like a really good airline compared to Spirit. And you're like, oh yeah.
Oh, right.
It's like the joke with the Ryanair, like you clap when you land because you're like, oh, thank God we made it.
Yay, we're alive.
That's how. I think the best way to sum it up was, this was my flight back to the Midwest from LA, and one of my fellow passengers waiting to get on the plane, their carry-on was just a Dollar General plastic sack. And then I was like, I need to reevaluate some of my choices.
Hilarious.
That's fantastic.
Anyway,
okay,
sorry
I'll keep
about
that in mind. Spirit Airlines.
The Podyssey Awards.
I will probably hold off on flying them.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, the Podyseys. And so there's that category where it's kind of cost prohibitive. And then there's the other category where it's very specific criteria to enter. So the Independent Podcast Awards, which sounds perfect, but they're only open to UK podcasters. And they're affordable to enter. I think they're like 25 or 35 pounds. So it's not super expensive. No, I think they're 35 pounds. And it's not super expensive, but, you got to be British.
Yeah,
sure.
And it's the same down the line, Canadian podcasters or, that kind of stuff. So it's two categories, specific criteria or cost prohibitive. And so we're like, well, why don't we do one that everybody can enter that's not cost prohibitive? They still get something out of it. So even if they don't win, we still have some stuff that they can get. But, all the money is going directly. Whoops. Smack my microphone. All the money is going into the podcast, the awards. We're not making any money. In fact, we'll probably end up losing money. But and that's really what it came down to. So our only real criteria must be an independent podcast. You can be a big budgeted podcast and enter. So if anybody's listening and they want to enter and they've got a big celebrity hosted podcast, we'll take your entry, but you won't win. The only people that have a chance of winning are going to be the independent podcasters because we still want the money.
That's cool.
Yeah. And podcasts must have released episodes within the past 12 months or something. So it can't be some dead podcast or anything like that.
Sure.
And that's basically it. There's a few criteria. If you win, we've got little plaques that we're going to give you with a little award on it. Obviously a little laurel, so you can say we won a Podyssey and put it on your website or whatever. And then just for entering, we started up this other thing on the side called Pod Chumps, and it's kind of a podcasting networking community kind of thing. And the idea is you can go in, you can share questions, information, that kind of stuff. It's really just a community. There's not much to it.
Sure.
But that's so great to have, finding guests that Reddit has been doing.
That. Oh yeah, Reddit's great for that. Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, that's where we came into contact with
each other. That's where this came from.
Yeah, so we little things like that. So you get a free year to the Pod Chums community and a couple other little things, and really just recognition. So everybody that enters will put their podcast description on the website, a link back to their podcast, so it's possible to get linked back to you, that kind of stuff. And it just came down to that. I'm like, I just want to give some kind of recognition to the small time podcasters, because that's what we are. We know how hard it is to get your name out there. So if we can do something to kind of help that out, let's do it.
That's fantastic.
No, that's amazing that you're giving that opportunity. Cause it can almost be a little discouraging when you see as you've been kind of calling them, the celebrity hosted podcast, because they already have a base. People are always going to, and then for more of the independent ones, you really have to build and just kind of jumping into the unknown a little bit. And just, as me and Damien have said, we mostly do this for fun. I get to talk to one of my best friends every week for an hour, and throughout the week of trying to figure out what's going on. But what do you have categories, other award things of best, I don't know, hour long or kind of like that?
Yeah. So at the moment, since it's our first year doing it, we've broken just to content categories. So best history podcast, best, true crime podcast. Those are popular, that kind of stuff. So we're going to do all of those categories. And then the judges are also going to pick out their just best overall, their favorite that they entered. So we'll have that as well. But at the moment, it's going to be, just based on the category. There's no rules around length of the episode. So when people enter, they need to send us 2 episodes, whichever ones they want. Just pick your best 2 episodes, and those will be the ones that we'll use for the criteria. And it's there's a little bit of sound quality, that kind of stuff. So if you send us something that sounds terrible, that will probably impact it.
Sure.
That kind of stuff. But that's literally it. And
are there rules around how many different categories you can enter into?
You can enter more than one. So, and it's, if you get, I'm trying to remember what it is. I don't have it in front of me. Sorry, guys. So if you pay regular price, and I have a discount code for you guys too, actually, if you want. It's POD25, POD25, and that gets 40% off of,
great.
so anybody listening or watching or whatever can enter that. And so it'll only be $15 instead of $25.
That's awesome.
So after you enter at regular price, normally regular price, which is $25, you can then enter again for 10 for additional categories, or is it 5? Sorry, guys, I should know this.
That's all right.
No
I should have this.
So you can enter once for once for the set price, and then entering again in a different
for additional
added
for additional things.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of categories, and I know a lot of podcasts aren't necessarily wanting to be one select niche. At least I know we're not. It's like, well, we're comedy, but we're also lifestyle, but we're also travel. So it's like it'd be hard to only enter to one category, because it's like, well, we're not solely any of those things, so we're going to lose based on principle.
I wouldn't worry about that. I would say just pick one and go with it, because the criteria primarily is going to be how good your podcast is, right? Like, are you guys entertaining? Is it well produced? Is the content useful? Like, so comedy podcast, that's so broad, right?
It is.
So, but let's get more specific. Like, maybe you're a music podcast. Well, in that case, you should probably be talking about music for the majority of your podcast. But society and culture is potentially much more broad. Comedy is much more broad. So, like, for your guys' thing, I would tell people to go for something more broad, and then just know that the show would be rated based on the quality of the show itself, that kind of a thing. But once after submission, you get a confirmation email. In the confirmation email is the discount for the second entry or whatever.
Nice.
That's really great info.
Yeah. Is there a due date for any, like, if people are interested in? Oh, sorry. When is it?
No, I know. I wanted you. I started talking, and I'm like, not letting you finish your question.
No.
I knew where you were going.
Yes, so you did. You and that social
emotional intelligence, Milo. Let people finish their question before you respond. Listen to what they're saying. Don't be a jerk when you're guesting on somebody else's show. Got it. So, yes, July 11th is the entry deadline. And they will be an awards show on October. I'm terrible. Jeez. October something.
Very unreliable narrator over here.
I really am. Yeah. July 11th is for sure the entry deadline. So I will say that one for sure. And the awards are going to be in October. They're going to be virtual, because obviously we can't afford to actually rent a space or anything like that. So we're going to do like this cool virtual award show, and, say the winners, and obviously
over like Zoom, I'm guessing Zoom or something.
Something like that. Yeah. We'll try to figure out what the best program is for that. And so that's when the awards will be in October.
I was just going to say, how do you pull the judges? Like, who are the judges? Who do you pull for that? Are they?
Yeah, they're fellow podcasters. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. So they're people within our network. We're going to make sure that we do certain things, like, like if I know you or something like that, I won't be a judge on your podcast. Well, it'll go to somebody else, kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
So we've got 4 judges right now. We're probably going to add one more to make it an odd number versus an even number.
Fair.
And so we're not sure who that 5th one is yet, but right now we've got 4.
That's awesome.
Nice. I was going to ask, do you have a website, or how do people submit?
Yeah. So our website is fervorfish.com/podices. Or it doesn't redirect properly sometimes. So we actually have the podices.com registered, and it's supposed to redirect to the other site, but sometimes it doesn't work. So that's why I'm saying fervorfish.com/podices, fervorfish.com, PODYSEES.
Nice.
I'll send you
put it down in the bio.
Yep, it's all going to be in there.
There you go. Okay, here's the dates for you, by the way, Christian.
Here we go.
Here we go.
So nominations are open now. They end July 11th. The finalists will be announced September 16th, and the winners will be announced October 19th.
Right on.
Nice.
October 19th. Okay, right on. Well, that's really cool, man. That on, the both of you to take that on just on your own, and try to shout out the smaller podcasting community and the self-funded, the independents. That's really great.
We're big fans of DIY stuff, and like one of the bands we've interviewed, they're called Emergency Brake. They're actually based out of London, but they've done something. They were trying to get into music festivals and running into kind of the things you were talking about. Fees were just too expensive, and if they kind of were bigger things, like bigger bands that would get overshadow them, so they weren't able to. And so they're like, F it, we're going to make our own music festival for, more DIY bands. And so like, we're a huge fan of that, of like, hey, if you see something that like you want to do, just do it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like, don't wait for other people to do stuff. Mm-hmm. You have to do it yourself nowadays, because if you don't, it's not going to get done.
Yeah.
And not only that, but nobody's going to throw your hat in the ring for you.
No.
Like if you're running into barriers on your own, somebody else isn't going to come through and take on those barriers themselves. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you have to force your way in. So I love the fact that you guys are doing that too, where you're like, hey, we want a certain goal out of this podcasting. And obviously, that there's other people who want that same goal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's nip it in the bud and let's get it going by ourselves. So that's really fucking fantastic. So anybody listening, go ahead and submit your podcast for a Podacy Award. And
sorry about the naming, guys. I blame Jamie for that. He came up
I keep thinking the word potty.
Yeah,
potty.
I'm trying to avoid that.
Yeah,
no, I like it though because it's based on Odyssey. So I get it. I get the
Podacy,
the reference.
Podcast Odyssey. Yeah. But it's like you got to spell it out because people are like, well, look it up.
Yeah. So just to end on the theme of the podcast, to bring it all full circle, I have a couple more questions, but I'll hand it off to Christian if he has anything else real quick.
No, go for it, bud.
All right. So the last couple questions, I always try to wrap it up with a similar type of thing. The first one is, if you had stayed in your hometown or in Seattle, right? If you had stayed there and never moved away, what do you think your life realistically would look like compared to now?
Very different. I probably would have stayed working for Microsoft, which means I'd have a lot more money and a much nicer car.
Okay.
So there is that. But the girl I was dating at the time was batshit crazy. So it did help to go to another country to get out of that. It wasn't intentional. That's not why I moved, but it just was a nice side
added benefit.
Yeah,
exactly. You just moved away to a different country.
Exactly. Unless she's listening, in which case she was not crazy at all.
She's lovely,
very sane and wonderful, warm human being, and I miss her.
And go ahead and submit your podcast to the Podacy Awards.
Sorry,
she knows you're moving back to Seattle now.
She's listening.
She has Google alerts set to your name.
Oh, that would be so terrible.
It's all right. It's all right. You have a German wife. I'm sure that's scary enough to a Seattle person.
Exactly. I am German. We invade every country near us. We will destroy you. So that's probably what I would be doing. I'd probably still be doing more of the same, which is a good thing for having moved. Even though I'm less successful, I did meet my amazing wife, and I did have a lot of adventures.
Yeah.
Any regrets?
Oh, yeah. God, I can't. I mean, just in general, like I've got so many regrets in my life. It's so hard to name which one.
Yeah. Any regrets as far as like the moving abroad and stuff like that, taking on that challenge?
Yeah, it was totally worth it. I've met so many amazing people, met so many good friends, and it just opens your mind up so much. I'm sure you guys know this in the U.S., well, especially you in Nebraska, right? You talk to people that are like, they've only lived in this small place, and they have a hard time fathoming the world outside of it. And to actually experience that and be like, there is a bigger world here, and it's more than just this little bit that I'm in. And so that totally made it worth it. So I'd say anybody watching your show, if you have the opportunity to go somewhere, do it, because even if you do it and hate it, you can always go back. You know, that's the thing. You do it, you hate it, spend a little time there, go back, and then you still can have a fun little story as you're sitting around the campfire with your friends having a beer, being like, I did this. It sucked. Let me tell you why, but I still did it. You know?
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome that you mentioned that, because my last question was going to be, do you think that it's necessary to move away from your hometown, no matter how far away it is? Do you think it's important and necessary to truly find like what you're looking for in life and who you are as a person? It sounds like that's probably true for you.
100% for me. And even if, like I said, if the answer is to go back, a really good friend of mine that from college when I was in Spokane, we met up with her and her husband on this last trip in Spokane because she had moved to Seattle at the same time I did, didn't like it and went back. But at least she knew that's what she didn't want, that she wanted to go back to this town and be with those people and stuff like that. So she wasn't sitting there saying, oh, maybe I should have moved. Right.
Yeah.
She did realize she didn't like it and went back, which is perfect. That's exactly what, do it and decide then.
That's a really good point.
So I'm taking away, it's best. I'm concerned. I'm a returner. I was born in Nebraska, left for a while, but now I'm back. And so I did really love all my adventures. And I also I'm so glad I did that, but I also love being back here because my wife's very close to her family and I'm fairly close to my family. And we have some of those friends who have never left, which fall into two categories of, they're people who want to leave, but haven't had that opportunity. But then there's also the other ones who are like, this place is perfect. Why would I leave? So,
as long as you're happy, that's fine. Yeah. My father's never lived outside of the state of Washington, I don't think. But he also has a very narrow view of everything else because how he gets his media and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's kind of one of those, maybe if you traveled a little bit, you'd realize what you think is right isn't. And like Nebraska's lovely. Like I had great visits down there visiting people. And my grandparents actually lived in Utah. And so Utah and Nebraska I'd been to numerous times. And, like the rural lifestyle and it's a very different lifestyle. And if you're happy living that lifestyle, 100% support it. Totally.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right. So we're going to wash all of the material things away. The only thing that matters for this question is the question itself. No money, lifestyle, all that. It doesn't matter what you're currently in. But if you could live anywhere on Earth, where do you think that would be?
At the moment, I'm saying Spain. Okay. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the relaxed culture, the weather, the food. Spanish is a learnable language for me. I took it in school. Obviously, I don't remember any of it, but I think I could get it back. So at the moment, I'd go Spain. I'm probably not Barcelona. Maybe like Valencia or something like that, like somewhere on that kind of coast there, something like that.
Is that based off of personal experience of being there, or is that based off of what you've seen or heard?
Exactly what I've seen or heard. I've been to Spain. I've been to a couple places in Spain, never to that particular city. So I guess I would visit. But then again, I went to Ireland without ever being there, and
that's true.
Spent 7 years and loved it. So
turned out well.
Yep. So at the moment, response is Spain.
I love that. I love that. What do you think happens when you die?
Oh, geez.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Remain, Roam, Return. Thank you, Milo, for coming on, man.
Thank you so much, man. It's been great.
It's been a very, very fun episode. Learned a lot, and now everybody listening gets to go check out a podcast, and they can submit theirs to the Podyssey Awards. So I appreciate everything, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on the show, and it was a good conversation.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. All right. Until next time, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. I feel like I need to get in on that.